Alright, so here in 2022, here in my reptile room, it's been a pretty crazy year so far. If you watched one of my previous videos from just a few days ago, I actually showed you Lucy, my reticulated python. She laid a whole bunch of eggs, which was totally unexpected. She laid 49 eggs that I put in the incubator, and then another 4 slugs, so she was like at 53 eggs, which is pretty crazy. This was her first year laying eggs. She is 5 years old and she weighs about 100 pounds, so that was kind of crazy. And during that video, when I was making that video about Lucy and picking the eggs up, putting them in the incubator, I made a comment about how early she was laying the eggs. That was earlier than I've ever seen any of my ball pythons. And today I was going through spot cleaning my ball pythons. You know, usually I don't expect eggs for like another month or at least a month and a half before I get my first ball python eggs. And to my surprise, one of my ball pythons was on a huge clutch of eggs, and I don't know how long they've been in there because I haven't spot cleaned these tubs for like 4 or 5 days since I went through and added some water to the substrate. I usually go through and keep it pretty hydrated so they don't dry out and they have a pretty good shed. So I don't know if she laid them today or if she laid them a few days ago or how much those eggs are stuck together. But it hasn't even been 4 months. It's been like just a little over 3.5 months. Well, I guess it's almost 4 months because just in a few more days it'll be the 15th of February, and I started pairing them up on the 15th of October of last year. So almost 4 months for these, for them to actually lay the first eggs, which is kind of blew me away. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna pull those eggs out, set them up in a box. As a matter of fact, I might have to use perlite today. I completely ran out of vermiculite with Lucy. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get ready for these ball pythons. I'm gonna look around for some vermiculite. I went to 3 of the big hardware stores down in Denver, and I could not find vermiculite. Apparently it's a seasonal item and they haven't gotten it in yet. But I did buy 2 more really big bags of perlite, so I have plenty of perlite. I just don't have any vermiculite for my ball pythons. And hopefully I'll actually have room in my incubator once I start getting a lot of the clutches for my ball pythons, because that reticulated python filled up more than half of my incubator with those 49 eggs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just show you the snake. We'll pull the eggs out and set them up in the incubator. All right, so before we look at that ball python, I wanted to show you Lucy. Look at how funny she is. After she laid those eggs, I pulled her out and scrubbed down her entire enclosure, put her back in. She's actually on the water bowl. It's kind of like a foam water bowl, and it's almost like she thinks the water bowl is her eggs or something. And she coiled up on there like she's on her eggs, which is pretty funny. And because since she's on the water bowl, it's really super humid in there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But my ball python female on the egg, she's way up on the top, and my light barely reaches up here. This is my albino female from 2010, one of my older snakes. And take a look at this girl. Oh yeah. She's a beautiful albino. Take a look at that. She is awesome. So I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull her down, take her off the eggs, and see how many there are. It looks like there's a bunch of eggs in there. Alright, so looking at these eggs, it's kind of interesting. Looks like there's a slug that is slightly turning green. That's not a good sign. I don't know how long she's been on these eggs. Let's take a look at this. And there's little spots on some of those eggs. You can definitely tell they've been there a while. That's not good. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 slugs. And it looks like all the eggs are out of her. What I want to do is I want to put her over here in this boa tub. Wow, that was totally unexpected. That was even more unexpected than my reticulated python eggs. Getting eggs this early, I would think they would be okay. So I guess what I'm going to do first is I'm going to candle them. So normally, once my first female ovulates, I check in every single female tub every single day. So this doesn't happen where they're kind of sitting around. They're pretty, they feel like cardboard. They have a really interesting feel to them. Like they should have been in the incubator for a few days. Almost losing a little bit of moisture in the egg from not being in the incubator. And these are really stuck together. Wow. I might just leave these together, actually. Maybe. Maybe I can get them apart. Oh, that really makes me nervous on this egg. Boy. Alright, maybe I'll just leave them there. Maybe I'll just leave them. I kind of dropped the ball on that one. Oh. Alright, so I'm gonna candle this just to see if these are good eggs here. See if they're developing already. So we do have some development there. And normally what I'll do is I'll take a marker, put a little X right on the embryo. They look really good. I don't think it's gonna matter if they because they've been sitting there. This one looks really good too. It's funny, it almost looks, in some of these, I've been kind of deceived where it almost looks like twins on some of these, but I've never, ever had a twin. And then on these, I'm just going to leave them, I'll put them in the incubator just the way they were, but I'm sure they're good. That looks good. That looks good. You can see veins in that one and in that one. They all look like good eggs. Alright. Alright, so I was just kind of looking at this. One of the things that concerns me is it's going to hit the press and seal up on the top. So, I'm thinking about taking this egg off. Hopefully I can do this. Another thing is, I was actually trying this, I actually separate all the eggs on every single clutch. And last year, I dropped an egg. I dropped it from about this high to the floor by accident. And that egg didn't survive. So if you drop an egg, it's pretty much certain death for that egg. To keep in mind, if you're doing this, that was one of my big mistakes last year. All right, I got that one. I don't know, if I get this first egg off, I might just be tempted to take all these eggs apart. But it's always kind of a risk. I actually had one that sprung a leak when I was separating them, and I used a Band-Aid to patch it, and that worked. I've seen people use Band-Aids, I've seen people use super glue, and this is really making me nervous. Looks like it's working pretty good. Wow, these eggs are already drying out. Pretty dry. Looks like it's working alright. Oh, I got that one. Just one more. I usually, there we go. And then once you remove that one, that's kind of holding them all together. I might as well just separate them all at this point, because it's going to be real easy. I think I like to kind of go all the way around where they're stuck together. Man, I can't believe she laid so early. That was such a surprise. Oh, that's like really stuck. Alright, one to go. I would much rather separate them, because the problem is if you get them in the incubator and one of them goes bad, it's easier to move it to a different box. And so far, if I have one that starts going bad and getting all moldy, I've never been able to recover it. Alright, so I'm going to candle the last 4, and then I'm going to get that box ready for the incubator. Alright, so today I'm going to have to use perlite. I have this really dusty perlite. that I've had for a really long time, but I'm sure it'll work fine. You just need, you can even use like sponges, or I have seen some people where they just have water, something suspended over water. But the problem with just water is that potentially you can splash that water up on your eggs if you're moving stuff around, which you really don't want. So I do 100 grams vermiculite, 100 grams of water, and since I'm using perlite, the weird thing is when I use perlite on this last one, on my reticulated python eggs, it's really dusty. It's probably not good to breathe in this stuff. It seemed like it sucked up a lot more water on my reticulated python box. I can't say that I've ever really used, I think I used perlite one of the very first times. So we're at 100.5 grams. I'll zero it out here. And then this water, I actually use my own, I made my own distilled water. And see if I can add most of it this way, and then I'll use a syringe for the end. And then I just put the distilled water in the microwave for like 30 seconds. And that's enough to get it to 90 degrees. So this is 90-degree distilled water, which you want it fairly sterile. You don't want to completely, if you could make the box completely sterile, that might be ideal. So we're at 85, and then a whole syringe is like 10 grams, something like that. So we're 98, 99, 100.5, 100.4, pretty much exact. And if you actually look at the consistency of this, it seems a lot more light and fluffy compared to the vermiculite. This perlite, it almost seems like you could add more water to this perlite. Like you can add twice the water, which is interesting. But yeah, it's kind of weird. You can't really squeeze. I guess you can squeeze it into a pretty good ball. Alright, so that's pretty much it. And the other thing I was thinking about those reticulated python eggs is normally I do 100 grams of each for 2 months for the ball pythons. But the reticulated pythons go for 3 months. So I don't know if I'm going to have problems at the end with those boxes drying out after 3 months with the same ratio. I might have to go back in after 2 months and make sure there's enough humidity in the egg boxes. So that's pretty much it for that, and then I'll add the eggs to this. So even though these eggs are really super dry, I'm betting they'll still be okay, and they'll still hatch okay, I'm guessing. And I try to get them kind of in the center of the box here, like that. Boy, those are those are really crispy. It feels like wrinkled up cardboard or something. It's weird. It has a weird texture to them. From there, I add press and seal to the box. So I just use regular Glad press and seal, and it has a sticky side and a side that's not sticky. And sometimes it's some of these boxes are really hard to pull. I think the teeth are dull on that. And then what I've been doing, well, a couple of years ago, I was losing eggs that would completely develop in there, and then they would die in the egg every once in a while. So what I do is I just make a little crack in the press and seal, just a little bit, so I don't lose too much humidity, but so I have enough air in the box. And then I just put a little lid on, and then I print out the label. So if you're wondering what the male looks like, this is the male, a beautiful high white albino pied. So I'll get all albinos and they'll all be 100% het pied. This guy is kind of going into a shed a little bit. He's a little bit shy too. He's a really beautiful snake. He's produced a lot of really nice snakes for me. Alright, so I put 2 labels on my box. The first one is the laid date, when it was laid and when it'll hatch. So this one was, I'll just say today, 12 February 22. and it'll hatch 13 April 22, which is 60 days. And then I put another label, the pairing, albino pied crossed with my albino. Alright, so the last thing was to put the eggs in my incubator. I put them in here on the very top. Look at all the eggs. I stacked them all the way up. I don't know how stable these are, just kind of bumping the incubator. I guess they can't go anywhere. But this is the box for the Ball Pythons I just added, and all these other ones are from my reticulated pythons. It looks like I could put like 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe eight more boxes in the bottom. The problem is some of my big females take 2 boxes, so that could be like 4 clutches for my big females if I get a lot of eggs, and then I'd be completely full. I do have a backup incubator I can use, but this is kind of crazy. And it was amazing how light this box is with 6 eggs compared to a retic box with 6 eggs. The reticulated python eggs are so massive and they're so heavy compared to the ball pythons, which is pretty amazing. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming along, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.